Neuhaus is dedicated to promoting reading success for all. We attack illiteracy from 3 angles. We give teachers evidence-based strategies to teach reading. We provide parents of struggling readers with support and information. And we teach adults to read.
Giving the kids the Neuhaus strategies and letting them know that they can compete with anyone, that's our passion.
I know that the work that my teachers are investing in daily is working, and it's having a greater impact, not just on the students themselves, but with their families, with our community, with our city.
Hello, and welcome to the Neuhaus Speaker Series. My name is Laura Spates, and I'm the Vice President of Family Support and Adult Literacy at Neuhaus Education Center. As part of our community outreach, we offer free monthly information sessions on reading challenges, especially as pertains to dyslexia, literacy classes for adult learners who need support learning how to read, and we have a family support office team dedicated to responding to questions about reading difficulties. We are also able to provide supports to Spanish-speaking families. Se habla español. Please visit our website at neuhaus.org if you would like more information about any of these services. For today, I am so glad you are joining me as we discuss engaging and fun literacy activities that you can enjoy with your child this summer. We'll begin by looking at the current research around summertime and reading, and then we will dive right into a variety of specific activities that you can start using today. To begin, I want you to take a guess. How might 15 minutes relate to your child's summer? 15 minutes is the typical amount of time that research indicates a child needs to read daily to prevent the loss of reading skills. 15 minutes a day. And it doesn't have to all be at the same time either. Just 15 minutes over the course of the day. This is particularly important because during the summer, our children are at risk of losing their hard-earned gains in reading and math. This is commonly referred to as the summer slide. One study using data from over 500,000 students in 2nd through 9th grade found that students on average lost between 25 to 30% of their school year learning over the summer. It works similarly to how our muscles work. So I don't have arm muscles, you might. But if you have arm muscles and you stopped working out, you're gonna lose the muscles. Reading and math are the same. They are both skills, so we have to continue practicing them over the summer or we will lose the skill set. And remember, what's that magic number to keep our reading skills? That's right, 15 minutes a day. However, it's not just struggling readers who could benefit from more reading. A study of the reading practices of more than 9.9 million students over the 2015-2016 school year found that more than half of the students read less than 15 minutes per day on average. As you can see from this second chart, research supports that 15 minutes of engaged reading time seems to be that magic number where students start seeing substantial positive gains in reading achievement. But half our students aren't hitting that number. And this last visual really shows the difference that 15 minutes makes over time. Here we can see how much vocabulary students have likely been exposed to based on how many minutes they've read daily. The red line at the bottom represents students who read less than 15 minutes a day. They are likely to encounter about 1.5 million words from 1st through 12th grade. The blue middle line shows students who read from 15 to 29 minutes daily. And those students typically encounter about 5.7 million words from 1st through 12th grade, nearly 4 times the amount of the first group. And lastly, that green line at the top reflects students who read 30 minutes or more a day. They typically encounter about 13.7 million words by the end of 12th grade. So the difference between the red group and the green group is more than 12 million words. Okay, so we know 15 minutes is a crucial starting place for our children this summer. Now let's look at what all actually goes into reading from the point of view of a skilled reader. I want us to briefly look at these different components that go into reading, because that is going to help us understand that there is actually a really wide range of activities we can do that will all support reading. So let's begin on the decoding side. Decoding is the ability to translate the letters on the page into meaningful words. A skilled reader has instant word recognition. So they see the word and automatically recognize it, know its meaning, and move to the next word after word. They're reading automatically. This is the goal of the decoding side of reading instruction, instant word recognition. Another way to think about this is, if I asked a skilled reader to look at the words on this screen, but to not read them, they couldn't help but read them. It's because they have instant word recognition. It just happens automatically. Moving to number 2, though, when a skilled reader comes to a word they don't know, the skilled reader has the tools to unlock the word. They have an automatic knowledge of the sound-symbol relationship. This means, for example, when I see the letters OI, I know that it's going to make the sound oi. A skilled reader also recognizes patterns of the language and understands how words are organized into sentences and other ways. If a skilled reader sees a long word such as uneventful, they can break that down into meaningful parts, uneventful. And lastly, a skilled reader may also use context clues to help decode a word when other skills haven't helped them figure it out. A poor reader, however, is going to over-depend on the context clues. So they would just guess that since we're reading about animals, if the word starts with the letter P, it must be a puppy or a pig or a pony, even if the actual word was porpoise. A child who is doing this needs more explicit instruction on the decoding side. Moving to the language comprehension side, a skilled reader has a wide and deep oral language base and good world knowledge gained through experiences, both their experiences in the world and through reading. A skilled reader thinks strategically while reading, so they're self-monitoring. They're asking, does this make sense? What do I think is going to happen next? How does this relate to what I already know? They can make inferences and read between the lines. Something key to note here is that all of the skills on the language comprehension side can be practiced both with and without books. Another way to think about this is through the lens of the National Reading Panel Report, which is a seminal report that analyzed thousands of studies to answer the question of what does effective reading instruction look like for all learners? Although the report was completed in 2000, most research since then has served to confirm their key findings, which are commonly referred to as the 5 pillars of reading. First, you have phonemic awareness, which is the ability to identify and manipulate sounds in a word. So if I tell you the word cat, a phonemic awareness activity would be identifying the sounds in the word cat. K, a, t. Phonemic awareness, as my graduate advisor told me, can be done in the dark. It is not involving actual text yet, but it is a critical foundation for learning to read. So keep that in mind when we get to the activities that are dealing with sound play. If your child is a beginner reader, these are vital activities to secure their solid foundation with sounds so that they can successfully learn to read. Next, you have decoding, which includes matching letters to sounds and learning common patterns. Again, OI says oi. Phonics instruction comes into play here. Fluency is the ability to read expressively, as if you were talking. It means you can read words instantly, think instant word recognition, and without hesitation. Vocabulary comes from oral language and reading, and it's a great component because it can often be woven into the other components. And comprehension, of course, is both learning to understand the words and learning strategies for putting the words together. Wherever your child is in their reading journey, we want to engage in activities that connect to one or more of these domains. Before we dive into specific activities, I do want to highlight that if your child has dyslexia or is greatly struggling with reading, then we would recommend a curriculum that uses structured literacy. Structured literacy is a systematic, explicit curriculum that is taught by a trained professional. The activities we are going to highlight are perfect for families to do at home, but they do not replace the need for a struggling reader to have access to an intensive intervention. If your child might need a more structured learning opportunity, don't wait and see. The earlier an intervention, the more effective it will be. So if you have any questions about this, please contact our Family Support Office at the email or phone number listed, and we would be happy to answer any of your questions. No question is too small when it comes to ensuring that our children are set up to be successful with reading. Okay, so we've discussed the research. There's one more key idea I want us to keep in mind. Specifically, that golden number, 15 minutes. So we want to keep the activities in short bursts. They don't need to take all day. We want to keep it fun. If your child is frustrated or just not interested, then there's probably a different approach that would still be building literacy skills. And lastly, wherever possible, we want to give choice and follow your child's interests to guide what you're doing. Wherever they want to start, you can always build from there. We are going to look at 4 categories of literacy activities. We have building a love of reading, having fun with letters and sounds, getting dramatic with reading, and writing with creativity. Below each category, you can see a description of which type of readers they will be most relevant for. So let's start with my favorite topic, arguably the topic that will yield the greatest payout, building a love of reading. This is applicable to readers of any age level, and especially our pre-readers, our kiddos who aren't reading independently yet. In terms of the components of reading comprehension, the activities for building a love of reading can positively impact decoding, but they can dramatically strengthen the language comprehension side of reading by exposing your child to oral language and world knowledge, and by posing questions that help them with strategic thinking and inference making. Remember, language comprehension skills can be developed both through books and through lived experiences. Our first activity is family reading time. A love of reading can be fostered through many people. Don't put all the pressure on yourself. Consider extended family, aunts, uncles, older cousins, grandparents, godparents, close friends. One resource you can use to engage with family who can't visit in person is called openlibrary.org. You simply create a free account, and then you can access the K-12 student library. It will provide access to a wide range of books that have been scanned, and you can borrow books to read, very similar to an e-reader. It also has an audiobook read aloud feature that works best with books that just have text, not images. So during the school closures last year, I would get on a Zoom call with my then 6-year-old niece. I would share my screen, and we read through, I don't know how many Elephant and Piggy books. So think of someone your child would love to talk to and give them a call to get this started. Another activity is going on an adventure with your child. Reading Rockets has an article entitled 10 Weeks of Summer Reading Adventures. Here you can see a couple examples. Week 1 starts with celebrations. So writing a list of things you and your child want to do this summer. starting a record of when the sun sets every day, starting a summer scrapbook. The week 5 theme is enjoying the great outdoors. Pick wildflowers and press them. Plan a camping trip together. Collect shells or rocks and then use a nature guide to identify them. So as you can see, building a love of reading doesn't have to be just traditional reading. By engaging in these type of discussions with your child about the activities you are doing together, you are building their language comprehension skills and at the same time bonding with your child in creative, enjoyable ways. A third activity involves real-world application by talking about the news. This is great for building vocabulary and world knowledge because many of these topics will come up in future readings that your child completes at school. So 2 child-friendly resources for the news. The first one is Time for Kids. They have articles written for children grades kinder through 6th grade. You can filter to your child's grade level and then let them pick the article. If they aren't reading independently yet, they can even just pick a picture that looks interesting to them, and then you can read the article to them. My personal favorite is CNN 10. They post a daily 10-minute video of the news. It's more geared towards middle school and high school, but the visuals and the delivery mode really capture interest. So start with one of these, and then if something from the news piques your child's interest, Google it, explore it further. You're building vocabulary, world knowledge, and best of all, curiosity, which is a building block for having a love of reading. Lastly, I want to recommend another one of our seminars given by Haley Hunt entitled Reading with Your Child, Building Literacy Skills Through Read-Alouds. That seminar uses research to explain why read-alouds are useful and enjoyable for kids of all ages, in addition to having numerous benefits, from family bonding to exposure to vocabulary. Haley goes into detail about how to both choose books depending on the child's age and the steps of an effective read-aloud. At the end, you will also find additional resources for this specific topic. As you'll learn in her session, a child's reading comprehension level typically doesn't catch up to their listening comprehension level until 8th grade. So especially if you have a child who is in 8th grade or younger, you definitely want to check this out. So keep in mind, we're coming back to this 15 minutes. Everything that we have discussed for building a love of reading can be completed in short bursts, can be fun, and can be child-led, giving choice and building on the child's interests as much as possible. Now let's move into some activities around having fun with letters and sounds. These activities will be most applicable to our beginning readers. When we think about how these type of activities will support reading comprehension, they should typically have a positive impact on language comprehension, but they are most directly targeting skills that are going to strengthen decoding. This is when we really have to be careful to keep activities in short bursts, fun, and child-led. Our first activity is having fun with sounds, which you may also hear referred to as phonemic awareness or awareness of phonemes. When we get into phonemes, we're talking about the individual sounds of the language. Phonemic awareness involves knowing that the word cat has 3 sounds. Again, k, a, t. Even if I have no idea what the letters are. Because remember, phonemic awareness activities can be done in the dark. And they are a critical part of the foundation of learning to read. So when doing a phonemic awareness activity with your child, keep in mind that you want to focus on one sound at a time, you want to keep it memorable, and you are practicing listening for the sounds, not reading them. The Reading Rockets website has many resources for simple activities you can do with your child. So here are a couple. Sounds such as and are great to start with because they are distinct and can be exaggerated. So at breakfast, you could say, pass the milk, please. What do you hear in milk? That's right, Or during playtime, you could say, you have 5 markers on the table. What sound do you hear in 5? Yeah, that's right. And you can extend it by then asking for other words as well. So if you had just asked about milk, then you could ask, do we hear in the word moon? Yeah. What about in the word cake? Do we hear in the word cake? No. So these sorts of activities done orally with your child will help them begin to listen for and hear the sounds within words. Another fun activity you can do with your child is to say silly sentences. In a silly sentence, each word in the sentence begins with the same sound. And the whole point is that the sentence is silly. You say the sentence, your child would repeat it, and they might not be able to remember the whole thing. They might just say part of it, they might mix and match it. That's fine. The point is to have fun. So here are some silly sentences you could try. For the sound, Miss Mouse makes marvelous meatballs. Your turn. And then after they've repeated it back, I would ask, what sound did we hear? That's right. For the sound, I could say, Silly Sally sings songs about snakes and snails. Your turn. Yeah, what sound did we hear? And lastly, for the sound, Freddie finds fireflies with a flashlight. Your turn. What sound did we hear? So these are great for a road trip or when you're waiting in a doctor's office. The point is just to have fun and start paying attention to the sounds in words. Letter naming is another important component of learning to read. One simple activity you can do is print a strip of the alphabet and then have your child use individual letters. Plastic letters work great for this. And so they would find the letter A, name it A, and then match it to the letter A on the strip. They would continue with this until all the letters on the strip are matched. And remember, this doesn't all have to happen at one time. When all the letters have been placed on the mat, you can touch each letter on the sequence from A to Z, and as you touch it, your child would name the letter. If your child is in the initial stages of learning letter names, then the first couple of times you do this, go through it in alphabetical order. So you would hand them the letter A, say this is A, they would repeat it back to you, and then they would match it. And you would go through the alphabet from A to Z in order. Once they get good at this, then you can start mixing up the letters, having them pull it out, and have them sorting it. And eventually, you would remove the letters from the alphabet strip and just have them sort the letters. Now that we've talked about a way to play with sounds and a way to play with letters, let's look at an activity that is combining letters and sounds, or in other words, a phonics-based activity. When you start connecting letters and sounds for your child, we want to start with things that are high interest. A big winner here is their name. So my name is Laura. The first sound is L. L is the letter L. Let's write the letter L. To make it feel like a game, let your child write in sand, sugar, or the best, shaving cream. Even my middle school students can't resist when we do any sort of letter or spelling practice in shaving cream. Lastly, there are online programs that can allow your child to practice phonics. While I am always going to recommend activities with family members or teachers as the best options, there are times when computer play can come in handy. So this site, it's called Teach Your Monster to Read, teaches phonics in a game format that is really engaging for children. It is important to note that the program is only free on the computer. So if you were to download it via iPad or somewhere else, there is a fee. But if you try it and your child enjoys it, this could be the perfect rainy day treat to supplement their other activities. So again, every activity that we've discussed here can be completed in short bursts, can be fun, and can be child-led, giving choice whenever possible. Now let's move into a topic that will be especially engaging, getting dramatic with reading. These activities will be especially pertinent for emerging readers and beyond. When we think about reading comprehension, these activities can connect in different ways to both decoding and language comprehension. First, as we look into getting dramatic with reading, I want to make the case for audiobooks. Listening to audiobooks is not cheating reading. Many children and adults find audiobooks more engaging, both because of the audiobook reader's inflection, so you're having good expressive reading modeled for you, and because you can focus fully on listening and making meaning of the story, strengthening that language comprehension side. Audiobooks can be paired with the book, so you are still seeing the text, and some companies will incorporate the text into their platform, but they don't have to. Audiobooks are also great for bonding. You can listen to them together on trips or in the evening while unwinding for bedtime. They can also expose your child to higher level vocabulary than what they might be able to read independently. Summer is a fabulous time to explore audiobooks together. You can listen to a classic story you've wanted to introduce your child to, or you can strategically listen to books that you know they'll be reading in school the next year. Either way, it's a great option, especially in summer. So let's look at some places where you can find them. First, Audible has a site called stories.audible.com. All the stories here are free, and they have lots of different categories, everything from littlest learners to teen to stories in languages other than English. And of course, they also have their main site, audible.com, where you can purchase a subscription and have access to a wide range of audiobooks. Another resource that is appropriate for some children is Learning Ally. This program requires an account, and it's only available for children who have a disability that limits their ability to read standard print effectively. The application qualification categories include blindness or visual impairment, learning disabilities such as dyslexia, or other physical disability. The audiobooks and Learning Ally are targeted for students in grades 3 through 12. Many times, the file includes the text along with the audio. Children usually appreciate that they use real narrators, and they have a phone app, so you can download the audiobook to your phone and listen wherever you are. This resource does require a paid subscription. However, every public school in Texas can sign up for a free school account to get individual licenses for students with a reading difficulty. If that applies to your situation, just ask your child's teacher if they can sign up and create an account for your child. If that doesn't apply to you, then a single membership costs about $12 a month. Similarly, Bookshare is another resource that is free for U.S. students who have a qualifying reading barrier. Students 18 and over can sign up on their own. Parents can sign up children under 18. While this resource is free, they do use computer-generated voices. And so in my experience, children tend to prefer audiobooks with human narrators if they have that option. Libraries also typically have audiobooks. If you're from Houston, download the Libby app, and you can use that to check out books and audiobooks for free. If you aren't from Houston, check out your local library, because they most likely have similar resources. The last recommendation for audiobooks is on YouTube. They'll be free, and you can find a variety of books read aloud. But keep in mind that since anyone can upload anything, the quality is going to vary greatly. Another great option for reading is graphic novels. Similar to audiobooks, graphic novels are not cheating reading. Many children and adults find them enjoyable. And if this is what your child is excited about this summer, go for it. Another great use for graphic novels is to preview books that they might see at school in the coming year or in a few years. In the case of the graphic novels for Romeo and Juliet and To Kill a Mockingbird, they actually keep the original text within the graphic novel. So your child would be building background knowledge and getting exposed to vocabulary in a story that's just going to help them better comprehend it when they encounter it in the school setting in the future. Especially if you have a reluctant reader, give graphic novels a shot. The last activity I'm going to discuss is getting dramatic with readers' theater. This is a way to build fluency and expression and just have fun acting it out with props and silliness. The goal is not to memorize the lines, but rather to have repeated practices with the text leading up to a performance. Let's look at a quick example of a readers' theater performance with a mom and her 2 kids at home, where they were practicing reading with expression.
For today's video, we are going to do readers' theater. The hare and the tortoise. Hare and tortoise were talking in the garden.
You are such a slowpoke, tortoise.
I am not. I just like to take my time.
If we race, I know I would beat you.
You would not.
I would so. Hare and tortoise decided to have a race.
They went out to the field and saw a fox. Hey, fox, will you help us? Will you start the race? I would be happy to. I'm gonna think you win. I will!
As you can see, it's meant to be fun and informal. And in this video, even the younger sibling, who isn't reading yet, was still able to participate and have that model from her mom and older sister that reading is just a lot of fun. All you would need to do is find a reader's theater script and then practice the lines. If there are more parts than people, you can always consolidate parts. You would help your child until they feel really confident reading through their lines with expression, just like we want them to be doing in their head when they're reading independently. One resource where you can find reader's theater scripts is at teachingbooks.net. In their search bar, type in Reader's Theater, and then on the right side, click Reader's Theater Script Collection. After you open the collection, on the left side, you can filter results by grade level and select a script, or help your child to select a script from there. This is also really fun to do with a book that you've just finished reading together. Again, everything we have discussed can be completed in short bursts, can be fun, and can be child-led. Remembering, we want to give choice and follow the child's lead as much as possible. Lastly, we're going to talk through some ways to engage in writing with creativity, which is something that we want to encourage for all readers. Writing is a way to express comprehension, to communicate learning. So as we are able to decode and comprehend, then it is also important to be able to write and communicate what we have learned. To start, we mentioned this earlier, but it's so much fun, it's worth mentioning again. A huge reward and fun for kids can be getting to write letters or spell using shaving cream. This one, while it can get a little messy, it's always a winner. Next up, this is an activity that can be really fun. Write to your child's best friend. Write to a hero they have. You can both even write letters together. If your child isn't writing independently yet, you can be their scribe and write down the letter for them. Or, as in the example in the picture, you can provide sentence starters that they could then fill in. Journaling also falls into this category. Both writing and drawing count for journaling. It's okay if it's imaginary writing or mostly drawing. If your child sees you engaging in this process, then they will also be more likely to join in. It can even be as simple as a gratitude journal. Writing, drawing, talking about one thing you both are grateful for from that day. A third activity is taking an oral history from a family member. Give your child a chance to call a family member and ask them questions about their life. Then, your child can create a visual or written story. This activity promotes writing, synthesizing information, curiosity, and bonding. Now, while we want to keep writing activities as engaging as possible, if your child does need to complete a longer writing piece, perhaps for a summer reading project, then mnemonics come in handy. The Tennessee Center for the Study and Treatment of Dyslexia created a structured shared writing handout that explains the mnemonic TIDE. T asks the writer to check if the topic was clearly stated. I checks if information or evidence supports the argument. D stands for details or analysis around the information. And then E is at the end. Did you wrap up the piece in an interesting way? You can turn this into a game by using a graphic, such as this rocket ship, to track the details. You can even add extra stars above the rocket to show off rock star vocabulary choices. The moon could reflect transition words or linking words, such as first or after a while. This also makes it very clear to your child what needs to be included in order to write a successful paragraph. And it keeps it fun if successfully building the rocket leads to some sort of celebration or reward once it's completed. Again, even with writing, everything we've talked about can be completed in short bursts, can be fun, and can be child-led. In conclusion, we looked at the research behind why 15 minutes a day matters, and we looked at the diverse components that go into reading comprehension. We explored different ways we can engage in creative reading activities with our children that address those different components of reading comprehension, remembering that writing allows us to express our comprehension in creative ways. And we kept in mind the core belief that family summer literacy activities work best in short bursts, in fun ways, and whenever possible, by giving the child choice in the activity and topics. Remember, it doesn't even have to be 15 minutes at the same time. The goal is just 15 minutes throughout the day. In closing, I will leave you with the resources that were mentioned throughout the presentation. I hope you and other trusted adults in your child's life have a memorable, creative summer, engaging in fun literacy activities with your child. Thank you.